first, but we have a
Ay, beni
nice
biraz indirebilirsin, çok yukarıda.
participation. Now we are very successful.
Tamam, yaptım.
It's sponsored by this company. Okay, we'll follow. We'll follow. Thank you for your continuous support. You know, because you have been
Belki ayağa da
in 3
kalkabilirim.
terms already, 6 years working with us. Thank you.
So you have a big collection in the hospital?
Yes, at this moment there are about 240 paintings. It's the cover page of Università surgery. Are you a member of the IIIC? Are you a member of the International Intraocular Implant Club?
Hocası da yolladı herhalde.
Yeah, because this is a club of surgeons of anterior segment, and I deliver a lecture today at night for miradas.
Ah, really?
So
Tonight?
Tonight it's in IOC, International Intraocular Implant Club. It's the implant club funded by Ridley.
And
it's
good morning, everybody,
meeting every
and
year
welcome
in
to
this meeting
this
at
Biotech
the ESCRS,
booth session.
And every
I'm Dr. Luca Furiosi, and I will be the moderator of this section. Today we are going to have 3 experts that are going to introduce very beautiful arguments. And without losing any other times, I would like to introduce Dr. Sultan Kaya, that is going to talk about do not even miss to look from that angle Lambda, and our daily practice. Please, Dr. Kaya, take it.
Okay. Dear colleagues, today, do not ever miss to look from that angle Lambda, and our daily practice. Pointer?
I'm sorry.
Başak.
Bir de bize kulaklık var mı? Bilmiyoruz. Biz duymayacağız. We don't.
Sorry, we have.
Okay. Yes. The patient satisfaction after trifocal intraocular lens implantation. Some patients are gelmiyor mu? Ses gelmiyormuş. Başak, ses gelmiyor. Duymuyorlar. Tamam, ses gelecekmiş. Okay. Dissatisfied with this surgical procedure, even when uncorrected visual acuity was excellent because of this photopsy, such as glare, halo, and starburst. The causes associated with this photopsy noted in literature are EOL decentralization, retained cortex, posterior capsule opacification, and dry eye syndrome, and residual astigmatism. Except for these factors, Phakic et al. Suggested that kappa angle could be associated with this photopsy after multifocal intraocular lens implantation. Kappa angle you can see in literature. Usually, angle kappa is the pupillary axis. The patient postoperative far, intermediate, and the near vision aren't affected by their angle kappa. However, when the angle kappa is greater than 0.405, patient's visual quality decreased, and the increase of glare and the halo decreased, and the incidence of glare and the halo increased. You can see here the differences of angle lambda and the angle kappa. Angle lambda, which is between the line of sight and the pupillary axis, is not significantly different in the clinical settings from a large angle kappa. Angle kappa is between pupillary axis and the visual axis. Angle lambda, line of sight, between the line of sight and the angle lambda. Pupillary axis and the line of sight, between this called angle lambda. In this case report, we do bilateral trifocal intraocular EOL implantation, 62 HP male. You can see preoperative refraction, keratometric values. After this implantation, she has positive dysphotopsy, especially at night. In this topographic, you can see preoperative topography, point lambda intercept, and for the left eye lambda intercept, and as you can see 0.78 and 0.72. This is the very front analyzed preoperative. We do the calculation with the lens star and using the SRKT form lens target for emetropia, and postoperative refraction and the keratometric values you can see, and the visual acuities you can see. We have some patients like this, and we do a study about this, and it's published at this year, June 2023. The impact of angle lambda on the patient's satisfaction after Optiflex trio. Our purpose to evaluate the effect of lambda angle on vision-related quality of life after trifocal intraocular lens implantation by using the National Eye Institute Visual Function Questionnaire 25. Our method, lambda angle, we measured by the series topography. We do the yield calculation for all patients with lens star using the ESCRS formula. All cases were target for emmetropia, and we put the Optiflex trio lens. We implanted all patients. This intraocular lens is hydrophobic acrylic single piece of diffractive refractive trifocal IOL. It has millimeter examination protocol, and with the addition of evaluation, monocular uncorrected distance, monocular uncorrected intermediate, and monocular uncorrected near visual acuity. Under photopic light condition, we use the standard logMAR chart. The vision-related questionnaire was assessed 3 months to 2 groups based on the size of lambda angle. Preoperative topographic parameters, postoperative refractive factors were evaluated, and their influence on the outcomes were analyzed. In our results, 37 females and 28 males, the mean age was 87. The lambda angle, mean lambda angle was the 0.64. We have 2 groups. First group, 49 eyes, under the 0.5 millimeter, and the group 2, 0.5 and bigger than the 0.5 millimeters, 81 eyes. No statistically significant difference was evidence for age, sex, axial length, anterior chamber depth, pupil diameter, corneal curvature, corneal astigmatism, and aberration between 2 groups. You can see the preoperative patient's parameters, and it's the visual acuity. No statistically significant differences were evident for postoperative, uncorrected, far, intermediate, and the near vision, spherical equivalent between 2 groups. This questionnaire has 3 parts. Part 1, general health and vision. Part 2, difficulty with activities. Part 3, response to vision problems. You can see these activities. There is no statistically significant differences was evidence for both part 1, general health and vision, and the part 3, response to the vision problems. However, regarding some activities, there are statistically significant differences between 2 lambda groups. Part 3, you can see these activities: reading, ordinary print newspaper, doing work, hobby, and you can see all of them in this table. The 2 groups show statistically significant differences only part 3, going out to see movies, plays, or the sport events, driving at night, driving in difficult conditions. In our study, although the visual acuities were excellent, some of patients had dissatisfaction related to disturbing visual symptoms. We thought that whether there's a relationship between angle lambda distances and this dissatisfaction by using the quality of life Turkish version. The cutoff volume for the angle lambda was taken 0.5 millimeter, which is similar to the studies in literature. A larger angle kappa may cause a lack of alignment of the center of multifocal intraocular lens on either the visual axis or the optical axis, which may lead to functional decentralization of the multifocal intraocular lens. The result of this questionnaire insists the patient's trifocal intraocular lens provided very satisfactory near, intermediate, and the distance visual acuities not affected by their angle lambda distance. However, when angle lambda was greater than 0.5, the patient's satisfaction increased during the night activities. Large lambda greater than 0.5 was found to be a risk factor for the photophenomenon. Preoperative lambda angle should be checked, and the postoperative emmetropy should be targeted to decrease the dissatisfaction after operation. Thank you.
What is angle lambda compared to angle alpha? Is it the same?
Not it is the same. It's same. The
Because, angle kappa.
only measure Visual acuity, it's the between lambda angle is line of sight and visual axis between. Angle kappa, visual pupillary axis and the visual axis. Alpha, it's the differences from this. Yes. But the lambda and the kappa similar. Yes. Yes, similar. In practical, it's similar. And serious device only can measure lambda angle. Yes.
Any other question from the audience? Thank you very much for your presentation. So I'm going to introduce the second speaker, Dr. Baha Toygar, and that is going to talk about. So please do the second presentation. Just a moment. So Dr. Toygar is going to talk about premium IOLs, diverse premium dry eye management.
I work in Istanbul, so today we will talk about dry eye management because we see some problems after some uneventful surgery. You see, this lady came to us for cataract operation, and we operated both eyes with the Optiflex Trio Toric. As you see here, we use TK last 2 years, so we have better results with toric, trifocal toric lens. And immediately after surgery, next day and the first week, the refraction was very good. And since she was living, in a long distance from Istanbul, we couldn't see her. Then I heard that she had very bad vision, and then she came back, and then we understood that she COVID infection and after COVID syndromes in some other problems in the body also. So immediately this visual acuity dropped to 0.2. As you see here, she had severe dry eye. We did tear osmolarity and we did some other tests. So she diagnosed with the severe dry eye, and we began treatment with the, of course, our always first aim is the, make pressure on the inflammation. So we have to use preservative-free artificial tears or the other drops. So we had this treatment, cyclosporin. Additionally, we did IPL treatment. I will talk about it later, and some high-dose capsules containing omega-3 and 6. Then 6 months later, we saw the patient, and we saw that the visual acuity was very good and patient satisfaction was very high. So when we have these, especially these lenses with trifocal or add-off these smart lenses, some patients are not very happy, so we have to check the dry eye problems immediately, because some patients think that they had infection during the surgery, which is not true, because they have only dry eye. So you have to treat dry eye. But for me, prevention is better than treatment always. So we have to check in advance before the surgery. And what is iatrogenic dry eye disease? What happens? Because we use topical and systemic drugs, they may cause the use of contact lenses and surgically induced dry eye. It's very well known in coronary refractive surgery, and now we understand that we may have some problems with cataract surgeries, and of course with lid surgeries, some other surgeries like keratoplasty glaucoma. This is a very good study. Preoperatively, in 3 sites, they checked the hyperosmolarity in the patients, and as you see, 67, there are more than 1 diopter of change. So preoperatively, again, we may have some problems with the biometry, with the keratometry results. And postoperatively, it negatively affects the healing process, leads to patient dissatisfaction, and distorts visual results. And pathophysiology, dry eye disease is topical anesthetics, microscope-induced light toxicity, increase in the inflammatory factors, loss of goblet cells, and cause that meibomian gland dysfunction. There is another study about corneal denervation in extracapsular, intracapsular surgeries. The corneal denervation in 2 years and in phacosurgery 3 months. And corneal sensitivity returned the Baseline values, the incision size 2.8 in 1 month, 4.1 with 3 months. So smaller incision, we have better results. And the mucin is secreted by goblet cells, as you know. Mucin makes the hydrophobic surface hydrophilic, and its absence, of course, we have evaporative dry eye syndrome. The increase in inflammatory cells factor like IL-13 and leukotriene in cataract surgery causes goblet cell loss. And the surface irritation in cataract surgery triggers many inflammatory events. This process starts with the contribution of some chemical mediators like neutrophils, macrophages, proteolytic enzymes, and some others. And topical anesthetic drops is responsible of these things, and drops containing BAC is important. In the post-operative period, it's necessary to use drops. Corneal sensitivity, reduction of, and many studies show that symptoms associated with dry eye and corneal sensitivity intense in the first week, last for 3 to 6 months, and dry before and after surgery. I use preservative-free hyaluronic acid artificial tears, twice daily eyelash clinic, and warm compress. Cyclosporin is very important. Sometimes I use also steroids for short. And if they have blepharitis, eyelid inflammation, topical antibiotics without preservatives. And I use IPL, as you see in this photo. This is a very famous portrait artist in Turkey, and he had lots of problems. Then I called him to my clinic, and we did IPL treatment. So after IPL treatment, he was okay with very few artificial tears drops. And also we give some capsules containing omega-3 and 6. And as a conclusion, while the measures I have outlined may appear to present a valuable investment in the post-operative results, maintaining a healthy ocular surface greatly enhances the technology we employ. Proactively addressing dry eye concerns enable our cataract IOL patients to achieve better vision, more swiftly due to advancements in refractive and cataract surgery. It's crucial to address ocular surface issues before IOL surgery to enhance their visual outcomes afterward. And this is the painting of this portrait painter that I shown. Thank you very much.
So, is there any question from the audience? No. I will ask Professor to comment the presentation. There is a question from the audience.
Üzerine etkisi hakkında bir fikriniz var mı? Yani mesela yaptığın önce dry eye olup da
Yes.
keratometri bozulursa.
Yes. I have shown in my slide, there is a study, so there is a difference between measurements of K reading in dry eye patients. So you have to, if you diagnose dry eye syndrome, you have to treat these patients, and while they're under the treatment, let's say 15 days, 1 month later, so you have to check IOL master K readings again, then go for the surgery. It's better.
Baha, very nice presentation. Can you, I think that...
We can talk here.
Thank you. Very nice presentation, and have 2 questions. One, basic tear film exam in cataract surgery, pre-op, which is the normal one that you do, just to identify risk factors.
Yeah, usually I use, of course, with the slit lamp examination plus tear osmolarity, tear lamp. Tear.
So osmolarity.
Yes.
Are you checking also breakup time?
Yes. We have non-invasive one in the clinic, the SPM, I guess the name. So we check with this.
Okay.
But mostly I rely on tear osmolarity and the slit lamp.
You know, in my experience, one of the leading factors of dry eye is the use of medication.
Yeah.
I totally agree with the preservative-free medication, but I try to avoid on the medication that I can, and one of that the very toxic one is the use of midratics, just at the moment of the surgery. So I don't use midratics. One random day, the number of drops that are used by the nurses in the pre-op, a total of 15 drops are used in the eye of the patient before entering the operating. 15. Including phenylephrine, including anesthetic, all of them are toxic, you know. So number one is, in my opinion, this is my experience, and we cancel completely the dilation. So from that moment, we improve a lot, and I think that this is related just with a surgical action. The second is about the how to manage, because some cases, probably you don't identify properly, or by chance they happen, and you have this punctate keratopathy that suffer in your case. But we have found this the best indication for PRP, plather-rich plasma, that makes completely the solution of the problem. And this is what we use. When we have punctate keratopathy grade 3 of Oxford, we use PRP. Less than grade 1 usually is not relevant, and we use Ajaride.
So you use intracameral adrenaline. But
Fidrin is from TIA and contains tropicamide, phenylephrine, and anesthetic.
Okay.
And with 0.1 or 0.2 cc's, the vial serves for 3 or 4 patients. You have a full dilation.
Intracameral. But if you use laser phaco of femtosecond, you cannot do it.
Well, no.
No.
But we don't, because it's very expensive. Our patients.
We are rich in Turkey.
Yes.
Do you use sometimes a contact lens, maybe for severe cases, therapeutic contact lens?
To now, I didn't need something like
Because
this.
we discover in our practice that sometimes when you have dry eye, severe dry eye, or a patient that are very low vision after surgery, 1 week of contact lens is helping the epithelium to regrow very, very fast. So sometimes also a physical barrier is helping the eye, the surface to improve very, very quickly.
But then you need to use artificial drops a lot.
Yeah.
Because otherwise
Combined.
the tolerance to the contact
So
lens is bad.
we use contact lens plus artificial.
Question to PRP you say.
PRP.
It's the same effect autologous?
Yeah, you have blood derivatives at 3, okay? Autologous serum that we don't use because it has to be diluted, requires manipulation that makes this galenic product difficult to get in pharmacy. You cannot make it in the hospital. Second is plather-rich plasma, which are the platelets that are in the bottom after centrifugation level. You eliminate the white and the red cells, and you get only the supernatant, which is transparent. And the third is PRGF, which is what you mentioned, endored. Endored is PRGF, the platters are broken, and the effect is the same, but with less lubricant capability. So this is why we use, actually PRP was described by us.
For the correction of ametropias. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, and I'm happy to be here with so many friends, with a friend company, and what I'm going to show to you is my experience with this phakic IOL, which is the one that I mostly use at this moment for reasons that you will understand now. So the goal of this presentation is to explain the features of this alternative to phakic IOL implantation, the show the results in the correction of the standard and special cases. I start using it in special cases because, as you will see, the availability in abnormal powers is unlimited, so that doesn't happen with others. and the third is to explain the differences that have about some physical issues that we are considering very important, as wall prediction and the complications related to that. So this is the lens. This is the Eyecryl Phakic that has a Toygar. It's in the other place. Very important, because if you miss this, you make the implantation upside down. Remember, this is a lens that has as a distinctive characteristic the hole is not as in the ACL, is at the left. Remember, this is an important, but otherwise it's similar, but it's totally different in the structure. It's a lens that has a vault. You see that the posterior part of the lens is the one that harbors most of the power. The lens is created in a way that will keep a distance from the lens back surface to the crystalline lens that will be uniform, and has been calculated for a dynamic vault, what means that when the pupil is constricted or not, depending on accommodation, the dynamic vault should be equally effective. One difference is a biohydrophilic lens, higher index of refraction. Very important because the higher index of refraction makes the lens to be thinner, and so you can manage higher spheres and cylinder powers thanks to it. It's totally different. This is Colomer, as you know. Colomer is an organic product derived from the pork, has some limitations, and the only is warranty in this composition for 20 years. You will see that the bent flex material, which is a very known material, is very different and warranties stability for 40 years, which is double the time that the Colomer. Important because we're implanting more and more young patients with this lens. So the material durability is more than 40 years, but this is not feasible at that level with the ICL. So the other characteristics are zero technology, zero impurities, and ionization with calcium phosphate makes that the lens should not become opaque at any level. As you see, the others are about the same, but we have the hydrophobic coating, which is not from porcine origin, so there is no organic material at any level with this lens. So other investigators have analyzed the surface performance with an atomic force microscopy. Why is this important? Because depending on the smoothness of the anterior and posterior surface, you will have different light dispersion in the light. And the scattering of the light in these surfaces when it is roughly decreased. So this was a study. And this is the Biotech technology image with this technology, atomic force diffusion study, and you see that the surface is much better, and this is even reflected here. So in other words, we have a smoother surface of this lens than with the ICL, which is indeed one technical and technological advance at all. The one special characteristic of this lens that I appreciate a lot is the surgical manipulation. All of you have been using the ICL. The ICL has a trend to rotate because it's flexible, it's extremely fragile, and this rotation makes you to rotate the injector during the surgery just to avoid upside-down implantation. Not only that, it can be trapped in the plunger and you can tear one of the halves. This is not happening because the loading of the injector is more simpler. It's not like this, but it's like that. It's like we do in any particular lens. And the second is that it doesn't rotate inside the car. See perfectly that you have to control the hole, obviously, and from that moment you know that the lens is going well underneath the iris, and later on you put inside the car, behind the iris in the trial haptic. But this insertion in the cartridge and the lack of rotation are, in my opinion, something that makes for everybody life easier. Important because we're using higher powers with this lens, and rotation, if you have a thick lens, is difficult to control in the eye. The toric range is something that attracted me from the beginning because I have many special cases. I used phakic lenses in keratoconus and after corneal graft, and this is one of the reasons I started using this lens. As you see, we go from +8 to -25, which is an incredible power in the spherical, but we have 0.5 to 5 in cylinder, but you can order whatever of the surgical plan that they have for the pitch, and the calculation is made by the company without a special software. So this is the optical zone related to the power. Important, the optical zone related to the power is always larger than with the ICL because the index of refraction is larger. Important because you have much more tolerance to pupil mydriasis in this case. This is the design. We have a central hole. This is to avoid, obviously, the peripheral iridotomy. You don't need PI with this lens. Remember, the hole is in the left. It's a very important topic, and the rest is about the ICL with a ball that is very, very much stable, as you will see. The lens should be placed in the horizontal position, and this is because the lens is calculated for this meridian. So the sulcus meridian is implanted in the horizontal place, and considering this horizontal location is what you have to rotate sometimes to allocate the toricity. You have the sulcus with the rotation, and one of the special characteristics of this lens is how this hinge makes these haptics in the tip to be flexible. So it is a lens that is very well adapted to changes in the diameter of the meridian in which you implant the lens, and it guarantees a 4-tip support because of this hinge, because of flexibility that is given to the haptics in the very end that makes the lens to be very stable and very unusual to be rotated at all. So the number of haptics in contact with the sulcus at the point of rotation is 4 points of contact thanks to this fact, and only 2 in the ICL, which makes an important difference, especially if you are handling lenses with high cylinders with the precision, definitely is very important. This is with the ICL, the cartridge is golden, it's very attractive, it's very fashionable. This is the cartridge which is normal, and this is the injector. Let me show to you just a normal case. This is a patient that you have, all of you, is a contactless user that has been unable to use a contact lens recently because he's working in a restaurant, and contact lenses for chefs are, as you know, very bad cases for that. The vision was very bad, obviously. I implanted at -9 and -9 plus 1.5 toric Biotech, and 4 months later, at the end of follow-up, the vision was normal. This is one example. This is a surgery of this very case. Surgery obviously a little bit accelerated. We mark the 180 meridian before in the slit lamp. We usually use topical or localized, depending on the patient cooperation. This loading of the lens, which as you see is just the opposite that you do with the ICL, and this loading is quite manageable because the material is very similar to the one that we use in pseudophakic lenses. Doesn't have the fragility and the special touch that you have with the ICL. You verify that the lens is properly located. Now we are putting some viscoelastic use methyl cellulose that is provided by the company, and we make the lens with an incision that is in the positive meridian limbo. This is how we implant the lens. We make the trial haptic behind the iris. We dilate intraoperatively, so again I don't use preparative dilation, and now we are adjusting over. So now let me show to you the special case. This is the reason why I am working with this lens, because I know the success in this case. This is a patient that had a deep anterior glabellar keratoplasty, and on top of that had a PTK because the patient ended, as very frequently, with a surface opacification or epithelial hyperplasia, or had an irregular component. The patient was 31 years, and we did was a keratoconus case, and following the diagnosis of keratoconus, this was the DALC was performed, and we ended in an unacceptable result, as you see, with -10 diopters of astigmatism. In the other eye, we ended with -2. And this is one of the pitfalls that we have in corneal graft. You cannot predict the outcome, and as you can imagine, this right eye was functionally blind with no binocularity because of this anisometropia. So implanted this power. This cannot be done with any lens. There is no lens in the market that can make a -12 correction, and this is the surgery of this case. You see here the deep anterior lamellar graft that did well. The superficial opacity was caused by a toxicity created by the post-operative treatment. We're marking the axis 180, and this is the reference for the implantation of the lens. Haptic, I am now going to put it inside behind the iris, and in doing that we are locating the lens in the axis that is indicated by the manufacturer. Finally, we are making the condition and had artisan lens implantation on both eyes and cross-link. So this is the case that was the distance without correction was 0.1, had 5 diopters of astigmatism, and the planned implantation was in the left eye, which is this one, to make a piggyback IOL of a previous monofocal lens. This is a piggyback case on a case that was previously planned. So the outcomes are going to come later. We had the standard cases, this series that is from Dr. Paredes in Spain, 40 eyes of 20 patients. We are reproducing more or less the same results. The efficacy and safety is 1.2 and 1.29. Actually, it is a very precise lens in terms of precision in an estimation of the residual refractive error. As you see, the cylinder, we are really between plus minus 0.5 in most of the cases. And if we concern the spherical equivalent is outstanding. You see that here we have what is the practice -7 in our refractive equivalent below 0.5. So this is the results in non-corrected for distant visual acuity. We gain vision as it happens in phakic lens surgery. And the valve performance is important because with this we still have a problem with valve, basically because to customize the lens to the sulcus is still very tricky. That depends on many variables, and there is no algorithm still today that really tells you about how the lens will be done. See the perform with the MS39. As you see here, we compare instead of Dr. Paredes the Eyecryl Phakic with the ICL in similar diopter range. And this is what we got. As you see, we have less variability with the Biotech than with the Star. In the 3 points in the center, next center, what means that the lens is much more uniform in the location. This is the normal valve in a high ceiling, in high diopter power, -22. As you see, we have in the periphery, in the center, and in the other peripheral part, they are very good valves, something that didn't happen with other Phakic models from other companies. This is because we went in a very shallow implantation in terms of valve. The possibilities to develop natural are larger with the ICL, obviously, that work because of the chronic contact with the crystal, with the anterior crystal. This is because we have a much easier surgical manipulation. The outcomes are really excellent. The valve is much more precise. We don't have the dynamic valve that will affect in case of shallow chamber, the shallow valve, the long-term event, and we have the calculation of the lens with a precision that is really excellent. So the service of the company is very good. I want to thank the company for this invitation, and basically this is the lens of our choice at this moment. We are using, as we do, more and more focal lenses, and special cases and standard cases are very well approached with this technology. Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation.
So I have a question with you. I really like the part when you're talking about special cases. I would like to underline that in cases like after keratoplasty or keratoconus, these patients after surgery, they are very happy.
Very good.
Very happy because they are starting from an eye astigmatism, 8, 7 diopters. They are not able to see nothing actually without. Also with the glass or the contact lens, they are not able to see over 4, 0.4, 0.5.
Well, I have to tell you one thing. You not only have refractive surgery, you are dealing with a functional result. Why? Because every 3 to 4 diopters of astigmatism gain one line of BCVA. In the case that I showed you before, with 12 diopters of astigmatism, we ended with 4 lines of BCVA gain. So that is important. Not only we correct and we eliminate the binocularity problem, we were able to restore part of the vision of the patient.
That's very important.
And remember that 30% of those cornea grafts, dark or penetrating grafts, that end in a transparent cornea, end in less than 0.4 BCVA. 30%. So that's a frequent problem, and this is because high astigmatism, corneal irregularity, and factor related. So this is a way to implement your corneal graft results, and I really thank the company to make sure my patients when we have this outcome that unfortunately happens. You know?
Also because just one little note, in Italy, if a patient has more than 4 diopters of astigmatism, the toric IOL is covered by the public sanitary system because there is the restoration out, but it's recognized as therapeutic.
If by any reason you have to go for a surgery, is to implant effectively.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is another question?
Yeah.
What is your recommendation for white-to-white measurement? Which instrument do you recommend for white-to-white?
Yeah, I use the topography, and I use the IOL Master. The question is, how do I measure white-to-white? With the IOL Master and with the topography. We send to the company all the data, and they calculate the lens.
So you send pentagram and white.
ISO, the series. MS39 and the IOL Master. Why? Because they don't give the same measurement many times, and you have to promediate. You have to promediate. Yeah.
Because the lens is more rigid.
That is very interesting. No, iris robbing is one of the problems that we could have. We have not had not a single case with the robbing, believe me, not a single, even with the high powers, because we had in the past some problems with other lenses, not the ICL, because
after the treatment, you give Diamox, you give the drops.
Okay, the post-operative treatment after Phakic IOLs, we give that very day, 8 hours after. We check the pressure with a planation tonometry of eye care, either half an hour and 1 hour later. If we see that the trend, if the trend is to increase, we leave the patient again until we verify the patient is living with no pressure higher than 16, 17. And then we use a regular treatment for our cataract surgery, which is a corticosteroid with preservatives for 2 weeks. We use an antibiotic for 5 days, usually 5 to 7 days, and a non-steroidal for 6 weeks. These are our treatment. Yes.
May I add something to this? I use BSS, so I don't have to check the patients, I don't have to give Diamox anymore. Additionally, I want to add something about the design. Biotech Eyecryl Phakic IOL is the only one who has, which has the lens with the holes in hyperopic lenses.
True. Yes, true.
Because if you implant ICL for hyperopic cases,
There is no hole.
there is no, so you have to go for iridotomy or iridectomy during surgery.
Some patients in the early cases, we have mistaken in sizing of the lens, and if the volt is more than 750 microns, it could cause some iris problems and pupil decentralization, pupil problems. So horizontal vertical iris distance in GCO is similar to white in lens star, and with new calculations of the company, the results are terrific. But the only thing, we have to have a very good volt between 250 microns and 750 microns.
Okay, the question of Dr. Jorge Alio, okay, fine, is important, because still today we are unable to predict the volt. With this lens, we predict the volt better. The results were clear. Doesn't mean that it's in all cases. Exceptionally, you have a case in which you end in 800 microns, and that depends on the anterior chamber angle and how you feel the case. Some cases have a not acceptable anterior chamber enough to leave the lens, but so far we have not been in the need to change for this reason. So we depend. A high volt might happen eventually, but we have not been in the need to change the lens. How to predict this is something that I cannot tell you, because there are many studies, many algorithms. There is a Japanese systematic study that ended with a much better mean, but exceptions happen as well. So I think that local factors related to the interior anatomy of the crystalline lens and the behavior during accommodation. We do, as probably you do, we target to have about a 300 to 500 microns volt. The company supplies the lenses in a way that our mean is 444, so it's quite well. We have eventually a very flat one. So far we have had no problem with the crystalline lens because the dynamic volt is better than the ICL, and you have excessive volt. You have to consider the exchange of the lens. We have been lucky not to make any explantation necessary so far. But it's still a problem. Nobody knows how to fix finally 100% of the cases with a volt. That's true. Yeah.
Do you have any hyperop patients?
Yes, I do. Yeah, hyperopic patients, yes. You know how tricky are hyperopic patients because they should have a good angle, good lens elevation, that means the lens, and this like in the others. That there is no difference. But I can tell you that it's less than 15% of our practice. So hyperopic is still not well solved in high powers. We do LASIK up to 7 diopters with the SWIN technology, with others you can, and from there, if the patient cannot be in an adequately safe environment, we prefer to say no and not to do anything. Especially because refractive LASIK works well, but it's true that we have to be careful not to have a high IOP in the post-op. We are, with long experience, so I don't remember any case with high IOP, because as I told you, we are measuring the IOP every 30 minutes for 1 hour and a half, and there's a trend to increase. We see the case again, or even with us. But to implant with only BSS should be tricky because you have. Do you use local anesthesia or topical?
Then you can use the myostat inside the eye more easily, safer.
The dual chamber maintainer.
If you have viscoelastic OVD inside the eye, sometimes if you give myostat, you can create pupillary block.
Okay, I have to see a video of your implantation. I will learn from you.
So some surgeon will say, yeah, these patients are normally young, maybe they have done keratoplasty. Will say, and if the patient develops cataract, which is your experience to maybe explant this?
Bilensectomy. The question is bilensectomy. Bilensectomy, we published 3 papers about this topic. You click my name, but 3 papers in every one of the explantations and one with a full review. we have no problem with the ICL, which is the caution of this lens. You need a 2.5 millimeter incision. Then you have to bring the lens to anterior chamber with viscoelastic.
Yeah.
We use, in this case, a cohesive with a previous use of viscose, and with the help of two forces, one for cornea and the other for conjunctiva. You have to use both, because with the one on the cornea you glass the lens, but with the conjunctiva then...
Toric IOL in after keratoplasty, and working with Professor Buzin.